I'm really happy to see everybody who's here today for this beautiful sunny day here in Los Angeles, hopefully where you are. And I had this inspiration to talk about attitudes, and looked up um, the definition of attitudes, which I'll read. Um, this is from Oxford Dictionary. A settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. And this is like a point of view or how one even perceives. Another definition is a position of the body, uh, implying an action or a mental state. So, this idea of the posture of the body is like a stance or taking a position on something, like an attitude. And so, an example, I'm going to give an example. My first example is actually doubt, uh, an attitude or a perception, like seeing through glasses almost. Like my attitude of doubt would be an example of like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. I think that's a good way to begin with Winnie the Pooh. But Eeyore, a beloved character, he had a certain mentality of doubt. And so Winnie the Pooh might uh, start the morning by seeing Eeyore and said, "Good morning, Eeyore," in Pooh's really happy kind of a way. But Eeyore, in his kind of depressively sort of way, might say, "If it is a good morning," which I doubt. So he sort of had, so there's Pooh again. "Good morning, Eeyore." And Eeyore saying, "If it is a good morning," which I doubt. Um, and so interesting that there's somebody coming to my door, which I'm going just thought I'd share that because it's happening in the moment. But this idea that Eeyore had this way of looking through a lens of doubt often. It was just his character. Um, and this kind of attitude, if we have an attitude of doubt, um, can bring a sort of zap of energy. It can actually take a lot of energy out of us. And so moving from Eeyore to another more practical example would be uh, myself taking out the garbage. So if I have um, an attitude about taking out the garbage, like I hate to take out the garbage for the rest of my life, I'm 59 years old. And for the rest of my life, possibly, and if you're 20 years old, it doesn't matter, and you hate to take out the garbage, there's a little bit of discontent or suffering or, the Buddhist word dukkha in taking out the garbage. And so for the rest of one's life, there'll be dissatisfaction, this attitude of not wanting to take it out, kind of a negativity. And so just seeing that, waking up to an attitude of doubt or discontent, it might be something that, with some observation, it's like I could be just a little bit happier in life if I put on a different pair of glasses or change my attitude a little bit about taking out the garbage. It could be that, well, taking out the garbage is an opportunity to get some fresh air. It's an opportunity to look around and possibly walk, depending upon where one lives. That it just might be that there's something pleasant, very pleasant that could be seen, or there could be considered the attitude of this is a little bit of exercise. If someone is able-bodied, that it's an opportunity to practice this path factor in the Buddhist path. I would say the one most that stands out is wise effort to notice that there is a mind state that's a bit negative that's actually getting in my own way, like a hindrance. So that, oh, there it is. I see that. And making a little effort to overcome that. So overcoming um, an unpleasant mind state in a way that it might be cultivated. And this is commonly done with practices like the metta practice, where we might repeat to ourselves, "May I be happy and safe." Um, and to say that any time of day throughout the day, many short practices throughout our day, we can cultivate, wake up to something that might be causing ourselves just a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of unpleasantness that we're getting in our own way. And maybe just one little thing at a time, like, oh, I hate taking out the garbage, so I'm going to be miserable taking out the garbage the rest of my life. It could be just these little tiny data points that all add up that are just simple things that it's like, maybe taking out the garbage is an opportunity to just almost, have a sense of humor, to laugh a little bit at myself for hating it. I'm not sure exactly um, why I never liked taking out the garbage, but now I've turned it into something that I really appreciate. Like I actually have these garbage bins that make kind of an unpleasant noise, but I actually really like rolling them. I get into the whole process, and this idea of that attitude can be like a posture, the how there's a posture of the mind and a posture of the body. The way I actually carry myself when I do take out the garbage is a lot different when I'm enjoying it than when I'm resisting it. It's an example of also feeling into the body. It's like, yeah, this resistance. I can really feel resistance to not wanting to take out the garbage. Is it possible just to open up and change my posture, change my mind state, and cultivate something more positive here? Because this is something that can be pervasive to have um, doubt. And when doubt mixes with fear, sometimes they tend to be very prohibiting. They can be something I know for myself. I could get really stuck when doubt and fear come together. I doubt that I'm ever going to get this, and I'm afraid this isn't going to happen, and it becomes like a song that I might sing in my own head. And with these practices, I know for myself, just waking up to those voices, hearing my mind, and really paying attention throughout the day. And the relationship with the sitting practice, a 30-minute sitting practice, an hour sitting practice, I might see these habits of mine, not necessarily the one about taking out the garbage, but the ones about doubt and fear, things that arise. They may not, they may. But knowing that in the sitting practice, I can come back to the breath, come back to heartfulness. And that's something I teach to people. I share as much as I possibly can from my teachers that these practices are something we can do throughout the day with every activity. And uh, one of my most inspirational teachers, Ajahn Chah, who is long passed, um, one of my favorite lines that I keep having echoing in my head is to have the intention to watch my intentions, to watch my mind, and I remind myself that often. So this idea that uh, attitudes are something that we might see through like lenses or glasses, can even be related to the hindrances in Buddhism that uh, there are uh, this idea of aversion, not wanting. Classic Buddhist teaching, metaphor for aversion is seeing uh, it through boiling water, that this is the way the attitude or that fills the body is looking through hate or aversion is like looking at the state of water as it's boiling. And so these are five metaphors taught by the Buddha on states of water and how they relate to the hindrances. The next one, uh, there is wanting or craving was is like looking through water that's rose colored. So this desire, looking through desire and rose colored or water that's dyed red. And the next one being um, sleepiness or sloth is like water that has algae in it. Like you're going to walk through the water, but you can't because it's so sluggish because you have the algae. Um, and then there is the restlessness, and the metaphor for that is when there's clear water, that the mountain and the sky would all reflect in the water. But with restlessness, it's as if the wind is blowing on the surface of the water so that it's choppy and we can't see through the water. And then the final hindrance is doubt, uh, that taught by the Buddha, which is water that is muddy, that 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 the muddy water. is something that we can't see through. And that these are different kinds of mind states that, with a wise effort, being aware that they are here, it's like, oh, here they are, to cultivate a more positive mind state. Um, Three others that are sometimes referred to as defilements are this idea of greed. If there's a mind state of great craving and greed, is it possible to cultivate the opposite? And the opposite being generosity. And even seeing this as an attitude, is it possible when I'm feeling greedy that can I cultivate generosity? And the next one is ill will. If in my mind there's the arising of ill will towards myself, towards others, towards a situation, can I cultivate goodwill? And then the third in this list of defilements is delusion. If my mind is cloudy, is there something I can do to arise some kind of wisdom, which is a tall order? But I want to go back to the going back really quickly to the ill will or the goodwill. I have to say this is something that I practice, I think, more than any throughout the day, because ill will arises. There's so many things that happen, and I'm here to be very honest with you. Like, I do have things that I just cannot believe, and I have a sense of ill will, and I notice that that's like a here's my bell. It is a bell. That is like the mindfulness bell. It's like ill will is here. I do have some issues with my neighbor every now and then. They have a duck that wakes me up at between 6:30 and 7 in the morning, and that's been one of my greatest teachers, is to, go from being really overreactive to, being in the moment when the duck makes the noise, and saying, noticing how ill will has arisen. And to this point now, I've discussed this with my neighbor, by the way, but when and it hasn't really helped. But so I have to work on myself. So I don't suffer when the ill will doesn't really arise anymore. Now what I do is I hear the sound of the duck. It wakes me up, and I say to myself, this is annoying in this moment. It will pass. And I do a little meta chat for the ducks, and I fall back to sleep because it is somewhere between 6:30 and 7 in the morning. But this idea of waking up and seeing if there's some kind of excessive craving, if there's ill will, if there is some kind of delusion, to notice them and to see them. Oftentimes, I have several sets of glasses here. I'm going to pick up another one. Is it possible to try on an attitude? Um, and I gave him the example of taking out the garbage, and I actually enjoy taking out the garbage now. So I set an intention to watch my mind. I do short practices many times a day. These are things which I offer as suggestions you might try yourself. Cultivating positive mind states. Um, and part of this is practicing with curiosity, just being really curious, like what is here in this moment, waking up to this mind state, and seeing if it is possible just to see, what do I get from this? What am I getting from this doubt, or what am I getting from uh, this negativity? It's only really something that might be hurting myself. One of uh, one of my other favorite teachings about this idea of ill will or anger from Buddhism is this idea that if I'm filled with ill will, if I'm filled with anger, I'm the one that's suffering. Like it may be that it feels like drinking poison, wishing the other person would die. So having anger towards my neighbor, I'm the one who feels really bad about this. And so it's like I feel like I might be one who is trying poison, wishing that they're going to be harmed, but really it's me. So how can I change my attitude? What can I do so I don't suffer over this? And what is a skillful thing to do? Um, so there's a practice, and I see the practice as something that happens, like I said, in the moment, and that these are things that arise like a mindfulness bell, and that they become teachers. Um, Getting back to the garbage example, taking out the garbage, there's this great quote from teacher Gil Fronsdal from the Redwood City area. And this is a quote of his that repetition and ritual and their good results come in many forms: changing the oil filter, wiping noses, going to meetings, picking up around the house, washing dishes, checking the dipstick or the oil. Such a round of chores is not a set of difficulties we hope to escape from so that we can do our practice, which is something that will put us on the path. But these things are our path. All of these things are our path. All this kind of yogi work, all this kind of things um, that we do throughout the day, changing the oil, wiping noses, going to meetings, and all of these things, washing dishes, taking out the garbage, um, being in difficult situations at work or with other people, um, being with our pain or sorrow, sickness and health, all of these things. And oftentimes it's felt in the body, this idea of the body, really, we can feel if we're resisting or feeling angst. Um, and that can be like a mindfulness bell too. Um, Sometime feeling resistance, a practice that's often uh, just getting curious about the feeling of the anxiety and seeing if there's something that I can allow and accept, open up to, noticing if there's resistance, if there's something that I can just recognize and allow, doing a short contemplation, one which has been uh, taught by many people, developed by teacher Michelle McDonald, is called the RAIN practice. It's an acronym. Um, and it really is an inquiry practice to recognize what's here. And if it's feeling uh, resistance, and then allowing and accepting, because if we continue to resist, it can actually get more strong. Uh, and just investigating the feelings of the body. Is it possible to let go? And to also know oftentimes this is just our autonomic nervous system doing its thing, and something that we don't have to identify with um, so strongly that we can kind of ride a wave of these feelings. And again, try to cultivate positive mind states of goodwill and loving kindness for ourselves and for others, as we do at the end of this practice. But we can do loving kindness throughout the day. Um, there's a list of um, attitudes I was telling you earlier. John Kabat-Zinn, those who were here earlier, John Kabat-Zinn has a list of 9 attitudinal foundations of mindfulness. And I'm just going to share those with you. One is beginner's mind. He was yeah, he was a Zen practitioner, so he came to find that this was something to share with people quite a bit, is having a beginner's mind, having an open mind, um, like a child or a pioneer. When oftentimes the resistance or closed-mindedness to, like, even taking out the garbage is because we have a closed mindset. So the idea of opening up and trying, like, begin again, uh, try this, see what's here. Um, and the opposite would really be a closed mindset. And that closed mindset is often associated with feelings of contractedness and closedness. And it can feel a lot better to be, expanding and opening. So just being curious, having an open mind, beginner's mind. The next attitude is non judging. And I prefer to share this as being curious, um, having a sense of curiosity as much as possible. And it really is one of the superpowers that we have. It's the way that we direct our attention. I'm not talking about the kind of curiosity that leads us down the rabbit hole on the internet, but a curiosity that is one that is not harmful, one which is that can foster um, growth and awareness, a mindful awareness, um, and that we all have as a quality within us, like a kind, caring curiosity. I'll give one example of a friend of mine. shared with me, uh, he said, I have an older car that I should get this attachment for my phone so I can use it for the GPS for the mapping. And I bought it. I bought the one that he told me to get, and it had like a suction cup, and it wouldn't fit anywhere except by the passenger, by their feet all the way down, and I had to look down. It was kinda silly, but because my car has all these round forms, so the suction cup wouldn't go anywhere, and it works. It worked for me. Well, he got in my car once, and he sat next to me. I mean, he loves me, and he sat next to me, and he said in the most angry, like, annoyed way, like, "Why did you put that down there?" Like, he didn't even say, "Oh, I'm so happy that you got this device that I recommended." He was just yelling at me, and he was very judgmental. He judged. He went directly to judging. He had no idea, and it was to me like this, like, epiphany. It's like, wow, if he was curious, he would say, "Hmm, why did you put that down there?" But instead, he went immediately to, like, anger and angst, and I said, "Well, to be, quite honest, it wouldn't stick anywhere else." So it's just it's just an example where instead of him being curious, he went straight to judgment, and if he would have been curious, he may have learned, there was a logical reason. Um, and I love him for being so judgmental because he's kinda like Eeyore, he's kind of like that. Um, so this idea of being curious, non-judgmental, sometimes is helpful. It's like, "Oh, I'm kinda judgy here. Maybe I could switch to curiosity." So acceptance is the next attitude, and the idea of, accepting. That's really the opposite of not resisting. This idea when we feel angst and resisting, is it possible just to allow? And I talked a little bit about that before. Another way to try on another attitude, another posture. Also, sometimes we hold on to things like my friend who held on to his attitude about the, um, the cell phone holder. Like, so this idea of, even letting go, an attitude of letting certain things be, letting certain things go is another mindful attitude. And this idea of trusting, sometimes just trusting emergence, another attitude. One which I find is a great one that I constantly am practicing is patience, being patient. Um, Oftentimes in practice, I'm not patient. So just falling into patience. One time I was driving to Long Beach meditation and there was a red light and I was running late and the light was green, but there were people who were crossing the street and I thought I'm going to be really patient. I'm practicing patience. I'm practicing patience. And then there was actually somebody crossing the street in a wheelchair. And I was really patient. I'm like sending them kindness and I'm going to be patient even though I'm late. And then somebody didn't see behind why I wasn't going and they honked. And in that moment, I lost my patience and I like in my head, I started cussing and like thinking like in my head. And I thought, wow. And I started laughing to myself that I went from patience to being annoyed because they honked me. It was something that just happened so quickly. But this idea that I returned back to recovering from, being overreactive to the person behind me. But it's a practice, finding patience. Another attitude is non-striving. Sometimes we have expectations, uh, and having expectations and trying for things or having some expectation can really get in the way. Sometimes even dropping expectations can be quite healthy. And so having even in practice this idea of non-striving or non-doing and just to be with the moment. And then the final uh, attitude here is gratitude. To have gratitude for what we have. And this is a wonderful practice, even to consider one or two things in the moment at any time. Like, what am I grateful for? And what's here? Putting on another set of glasses in the moment, like seeing the world through gratitude. So this idea that we can try on different attitudes, we can change our posture. For those of you who are sports folks or yoga practitioners, that um, each posture or each attitude can be a way to take a different stance to see things from another point of view.
Hi, I'm Brad with Long Beach Meditation. Your gracious generosity makes this programming possible. If you found this video to be of value, please consider making a donation here. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to stay up to date with Long Beach Meditation, click here to subscribe. Thank you.